Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, where we pre-tape Saturday, so the least we can do is tell you who supposedly ate the dog, this is Ballot.
That's right. I finally figured out a way to get a day off around here, even if a dog had to suffer. Thanks, Joe. Let's hit this. Oh man, Joe Biden's even lost the Pod Save America guys. That's gonna make old Joe even crazier than my ex-girlfriend Norma. Pod Save America, affectionately dubbed the Pod by its die-hard Democratic followers, was instrumental in rallying support for Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. But oh, how the mighty have fallen, or stumbled on a debate stage. In the weeks since Biden's train wreck of a debate against Donald Trump, the hosts of Pod Save America, Jon Favreau, John Lovett, and Tommy Vietor, have had a collective come-to-Jesus moment. They've concluded that Biden just doesn't have the chops to run a winning campaign against Trump again. Ouch. In a candid chat with Semaphore, Tommy Vietor didn't mince words about why they're now advocating for Biden to step aside. It's a challenging moment, Vietor said, which is code for we're in deep trouble if we don't fix this. He emphasized that their frankness is driven by the high stakes of the upcoming election. Joe Biden's message is that the future of American democracy rides on the outcome of this election, right? Given those stakes, how can you not have an honest conversation about the nominee and his ability to win? It's a harsh reality check, but Vietor insists they're coming from a place of concern, not just for their pals grinding it out in the White House, but for the entire country. After the campaign is over, we all own the outcome equally, he reminded us. It's like saying, we're all stuck on this sinking ship together, folks. When asked about the emotional toll of their criticism, Vietor got real. I think the people I kind of worry about are people who are close friends and people I care about, he said, clearly feeling the weight of potentially burning bridges. I personally feel badly doing something that hurts my friends. But the future of the country, he argued, is more important than sparing some feelings. Talk about a rock in a hard place. Their call for Biden to step aside isn't just based on a single bad night. Vietor pointed out that Biden's performances since the debate haven't exactly been confidence boosters. We all watched the debate and saw how bad it was, but Biden's subsequent off-teleprompter interviews and performances have also been bad, he said. It's like watching your favorite sports team lose game after game and still expecting them to win the championship. And it's not just the pod hosts feeling this way. Vietor mentioned that their listeners are also deeply concerned. Your average listener watched the debate and felt the way we all did, which was deep concern about our ability to win the race, he noted. One fan even called them traitors, proving that there's always someone ready to burn you at the stake for saying what everyone's thinking. But it's not all doom and gloom for the pod's dynamic trio. They've seen a spike in audience engagement since they started airing their grievances. We're seeing numbers go up in terms of downloads and YouTube views, and audience generally tuning in and paying attention, Vietor revealed. Turns out, a little drama can be good for business. Vietor also took a swipe at the Biden campaign's response, or lack thereof. The obvious advice that everyone's been giving Biden from the beginning is get out there more, do more interviews or events, he said. But Biden's team seems hesitant, likely because they didn't think their candidate was capable of doing those things successfully. Translation: they're as worried as we are, but they can't admit it. Jon Favreau echoed this sentiment in a recent episode, expressing his frustration with the campaign's strategy. If Joe Biden decides that he's not going anywhere, and he is formally nominated in August, after that, we will saddle up and fight for him, he said. There's absolutely no question about that. But the real question remains, is Biden the best person to run this race now? Lovett chimed in with his usual wit, pointing out the absurdity of the situation. We ran against Hillary Clinton. We knew the risks of her candidacy, and I didn't speak up about those, he said, reflecting on past mistakes. And when the Comey letter dropped weeks before the election, you didn't want to alarm people, but we should have all been alarmed. In the end, their message is clear. They want a candidate who can actually win. Vietor summed it up perfectly. It's about the future of the country. So while they might be causing a stir now, they believe it's necessary to prevent a much bigger disaster down the road. After all, if we're going to be stuck with 4 more years of anyone, they'd rather it not be the guy who can't seem to keep it together on stage. Jon Stewart is not backing down on his criticisms of President Joe Biden. In Thursday's episode of his weekly show podcast, Stewart goes full throttle, comparing Biden to Donald Trump. Talk about hitting below the belt. Joining him for the Biden roast were Pod Save America hosts Jon Favreau and Tommy Vietor, and CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers. The four of them analyzed Biden's less-than-stellar debate performance against Trump and his subsequent refusal to even consider stepping down as the Democratic Party's nominee for the upcoming election. Now, while it might sound impressive that Jon Stewart has a podcast, I'll remind you, even I have a podcast. Stewart, always the provocateur, isn't outright calling for Biden to step down, but he's definitely stirring the pot. It would be better, Stewart muses, if Joe Biden came out and said, "Look, I understand where I'm at in my lifespan and cycle in what I do. Here's how this government works," rather than coming out and becoming Trumpian and saying, "You think someone else could hold NATO together? They could never. Only God can tell me to get out of the race." Yep, Biden pulled the divine card in a recent ABC News interview saying, "If the Lord Almighty came down and said, 'Joe, get out of the race,' I get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down." Stewart, never one to mince words, continued his tirade. "If he were to come out and say, 'Here's my team, here's how we hold the line.'" But we're not seeing any of that, Stewart lamented. Nothing that's been done inspires any confidence other than the fatalism of, "It is what it is, and this is what we're stuck with." And that's the part that I think has degraded people's trust in institutions and the government from the get-go. That's a problem. The criticisms didn't stop there. Stewart pointed out that omerta, a mafia slang term for a code of silence, is being used to stifle what could be an incredibly productive conversation, reminding everyone that Biden himself once suggested he might only seek one term as president. Promises, promises. Adding fuel to the fire, the Biden-Harris campaign recently blasted self-important podcasters in an email, a clear swipe at the Pod Save America hosts. Bakari Sellers didn't take too kindly to this, stating he was mad about being called out and emphasizing that all factions of the Democratic Party need to unite to rid ourselves of fascism. Sellers wasn't exactly sugarcoating it. Vietor, bringing his usual candid insights, noted Biden's decline has been pretty rapid, dismissing Biden's excuse of having a bad night at the debate. "The in-person fundraiser I saw in Los Angeles a couple weeks before the debate was as bad as the debate," Vietor revealed. "Everyone I walked out with was like, 'That was chilling. Yikes.'" George Clooney, who hosted that LA fundraiser, seems to agree. Favreau pointed out that Clooney has since pulled back on his support of Biden, even penning a New York Times article about the Democratic Party needing a new nominee. Vietor added, "He had just flown back from Italy, so everyone was like, 'He must be so unbelievably jet-lagged.' But obviously, there is a more systemic problem." Okay, the dog story. I'm only telling you this because I wanted today off, as it seems we're gonna have a long summer here on the political beat. Did he really eat a canine in Korea, or was it a goat in Patagonia? It hardly matters. There are many, many reasons why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will never be president. For starters, his claim that a parasitic worm ate part of his brain. But crazier than having brain worms or owning 9 cats, it's supposedly eating a dog. That's not very presidential. Sure, sleeping with a porn star is, and not knowing where you are right now is fine, but you can't eat a dog. He denies it. He claims it was a goat. Anyway, in a July 2nd Vanity Fair article shows a 2010 photo of Kennedy and an unidentified woman chomping into the barbecued remains of what sure looks like a dog, although some claim it's a goat and totally not a dog, because who would eat a dog unless you have brain worms? According to the magazine, last year Kennedy texted that picture to a friend who was traveling to Korea, suggesting he try a restaurant there that served canine. Vanity Fair went so far as to consult a veterinarian who confirmed that the carcass in the picture did indeed appear to be a dog. But let's be clear, RFK says he's never eaten a dog. Now what about Trump? Has Trump ever eaten a dog? No. Has Biden? Maybe, but he doesn't remember. Even crazy Norma hasn't eaten a dog. She's more of a cat lady. Shocker. But here's the thing. If we had a race between Biden, Trump, and an otherwise sensible candidate who maybe visited the wrong Korean restaurant once, wouldn't the dog eater be up by 10 points right now? Anyway, portions of today's program were made with the help of AI. You can't spell canine without an A or an I, you know.